Hi, Book 2. Welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. And I thought I would go ahead and do the mid-year check-in tag because it's already July and technically the mid-year month is June. So, I figure I better get it in now before we get too far into July and start going into August. So this is similar to the mid-year freakout tag, but it's just more of it's more of an update of how your reading is going, more of a while the other one is more talking about what you need to. They kind of are both an update, but as the title implies, it's more about okay, what do I need to do now? What do I need to get through now? And I feel like my answers were not, at least for some of the questions, my answers were not the best. And I made sure to do a little bit better on this one. Okay, so question number 1 is, how many books have you read so far this year? And according to Goodreads, it's 64, but to be fair, I do count DNFs, and I also accidentally clicked Strange the Dreamer as read, and I'm not officially DNFing that book. I might come back to it, I might buy it, or not, I don't know, but it will be really convenient when we're finally able to go to the library and bookstores again regularly. Because although actually I've been able to go to my bookstore, but in my bookstore is just the store itself. There's no like cafe or anything like that, so you can go in there. Just remember to make sure you wear your mask. But I cannot wait for that to come because I'm going to definitely check and see if my library has Strange the Dreamer, but it probably won't, and I will probably have to buy the book. Because for me, a week is not long enough. A week is not long enough for me to read a book, and I've seen that book physically. It's a chunker of a book, so it would take more than a week for me to finish it. And I don't drive. The only time I would listen to audiobooks is like if I was just hanging out in my room, or I listen to them like I said when I'm taking a shower, because I'm just standing there and cleaning myself up, and but then I keep forgetting to. I've forgotten to bring the book in with me, so I decided to just go ahead and return it, and I'm like I still don't know. I might end up considering a DNF anyway. But, because, it's good. It was good. I love the writing. It's beautiful. It was definitely an interesting story. I haven't totally dismissed it yet, but I wasn't, like, super excited. I was like, oh my god, I have to keep going, I mean, it was almost taking a little too long for me to get to the really exciting stuff. Which, I mean, it's still good. It's beautifully written. It's just, I don't know. I guess I'm kind of used to the more fast-paced YA books that are, like, more like get to the exciting parts like right away. I mean, maybe not like right away, like they still introduce the characters and ease you into the story, but I'm just like it's it's just I don't like. I think it didn't help that I only had a week. If I didn't have a week, then maybe I would be willing to take the time and appreciate the slow moving. But if I'm limited on my time, like if I only have a week and then before I have to return it, or where's my dog just scratched on my door. Let me let him in here. It's most likely the boy. Stay. Wait until I sit down because I want to sit in here before you take up the whole chair. Okay, now you can come on. Just room. You would have done better on that side. Okay, I'm just gonna ignore my dog until he makes his decision if he wants to get in the chair with me. Of course he might step on my books. But anyway, so I don't like the time limit of a week, and then with the when you buy physical books borrow from the library, you only have 2 weeks, or at least at my library. And as I said a million times before, to me, I don't like that kind of pressure because even if I can recheck it out, it still feels like there's a pressure on me to get the book read so that I can at least have one book to return to the library and not check out everything all over again. So with all that being said, like I said, it's not. I think it's more like 63. But anyway, so like that's the answer to question number 1. 64 according to Goodreads, but technically 63, I think. Okay, so next question is your favorite book this year, and I had a hard time come on, Rascal, come on. I had a bit of a hard time making this decision. I did look at, I did write down answers for that BookTube video that a lot of people do, which is their favorites of the year so far, and I wrote down my answers. Come on, Rascal, come on, just get up here. Come on, jump. Good boy. So I went through that list to see which of those, and I was thinking about which book did I think about the most? Which book did I talk about after the fact, and just keep thinking about it after it. And so I decided on a classic, Edith Wharton's The Age of Innocence. And of course, I love this edition. I love the cover and the imprinted quotes from the book, and just the typography of the title, and the lilac lavender color. I don't know if this is lilac or lavender. And then the feeling, the leathery feeling of the book. And the insides are beautiful too. I love to get at least a few other books in this edition. But anyway, so this is classic by Edith Wharton. I don't know if we would consider like a regular classic, or if we consider a modern classic. Or, although I think it was kind of the in-between period where we were starting to get into the more modern, not modern as in how it is today, but like Hemingway, Fitzgerald, all those guys. And I think this was between them and the Dickinson and Austen era. But in this book, it takes place in New York, and you have our main character, Newland Archer, who is caught between two women. He's engaged to May Welland, who's sweet and very nice. She's beautiful. She fits into society's mold. She loves him. And she would be a good wife. But then Archer is also drawn to the lovely Countess Ellen Olenska, who happens to be May's cousin. And she's, of course, married to a count, and she wants a divorce, and she has quite no scandalous reputation because of it. And she's, charming and beautiful and stuff, and he's falling passionately in love with her, and she with him. But he's caught between his desire for her and his loyalty and affection for May. It is a beautifully written book. I love Edith Wharton's writing style. And I know a lot of people criticize love triangles and stuff. I feel like love triangles in classics are a little quieter. Like they're not as over the top as in a lot of fantasy literature, or a lot of modern young, contemporary literature, where it's really, over the top because people are so overly expressive of their passion, which, I definitely feel like people were passionate in this era, in these time periods, but they were more subdued, I feel like, because society, it was like the metaphor I was thinking of when I first started after I finished this book and talked about it was like, it's like they're wearing those relationships are trapped in corsets, where they're like, it's the passion is there, but they keep it, tied up, so they don't express it too much. It's such a beautiful story, full of passion and romance, and it's just lovely. And it's one of my favorite classics. And I'm definitely looking forward to reading more Edith Wharton. I've already read some of her short stories, or novels, or whatever you want to call them. I want to read The House of Mirth soon, and then I'm also going to read some of the other short stories that I did not get around to because I had to return the library book. So I picked that one as my favorite of the year so far. Next, question number 3 is your most disappointing read. And I don't have this book with me. It was a library book. and that is Keeper of the Lost Cities, Book 7, Flashback. So my feeling on middle grade is I enjoy it, but there are times when I'm, the things that show that the book is not meant for my age I have to remind myself that this book, I'm not the target audience of these middle grade books. These are for, between 12 and 13, or 12 and 15, I don't know what you classify middle grade age, but they're for younger readers. And I'm 31 years old. They're not for me. But I still enjoy them. I have fun with them, and they're very safe and friendly and exciting. They still have their scary moments, but in the end, mostly, unless it's a story that's trying to get a serious message, like a contemporary middle grade, that it's gonna end happy. And it's fun, and it's, thrilling. You still get the fun aspects of, of YA, but in a more light, kind of playful way that's a little more family friendly, like PG rated, kind of friendly, but, like I said, because they're in for younger audiences, like kids or preteens, there's things about it that can tend to bug me, because I just, the writing style is a little simpler, and sometimes I feel like it's a little too safe, and just, there's little things that annoy me, because, again, it's written for younger readers, and I have to remind myself of that every time I read middle grade. But it wasn't but in the series, so those things started to bug me, again, when I was reading, and this is, 9 books. At the time, the 9th book hadn't been published, and the 8th book just got published by the time I got to book 7. And it was just, the series just kept dragging, and there was a love triangle, of course, and this was one of the love triangles that actually does bug me, because one of the members in the love triangle just annoys, and I try not to be that person that dismisses a book just because I don't like that it has a love triangle, or that I don't like one of the people in the love triangle, and that, she might not choose the guy that I would choose. I try not to be, because I'm not the character. The character is the character, and she has her own mind, her own personality. She's not me. And yeah, we project ourselves onto characters, but they're not necessarily you. They won't make the same choices as you, as long if the writer is a good writer. Now, sometimes in young adult books, they kind of make a character that's a little bland, and so that it's easier for you to project yourself onto the character and see yourself in the character. Palace One! And, but, Sophie from the Keeper of the Lost Cities, she clearly has a personality. But, I did not like the guy that it looked like she was going to choose in the end. I could not stand him. I wanted to punch him in the face. He was so arrogant and controlling, and just, and first off, I always believed the series was a middle grade series, maybe going into YA as the series progressed, but the characters still seemed like they were middle grade level in the way they were thinking and acting. They were so immature, and just, it made me feel like they were still, between the ages of 12 and 13. Maybe 14 at the oldest, but they were so immature, and it drove me nuts. And then, like I said, this book 7 spent half the book, maybe even more than half, at the hospital, because in the beginning of the book, Sophie and the guy that it pretty much looked like she was going to choose in the end, that the author was leaning towards being the end game, they get into this fight with the bad guys, which that's a whole nother frustration for me, and they end up in the hospital. So they spend most of the book at the hospital, when Shannon Messenger could have easily skipped over that part. She still could have implied that they were there for a long time, but she could have skipped over that. Maybe she was thinking, I better show them in the hospital instead of tell that they were in the hospital for a long time for more emotion and to drag out the story. It's no, in this case, I think you couldn't get away with just telling us that they were in the hospital for a long time. Maybe just throw a few scenes into, moments between them while they're in the hospital, but don't drag it out as long as she did. That's all I ask. And it's like I said, did not help that I was irritated by Fitz's character. That's the guy that she looks like he's going to be the end game. Fitz was just really irritating. Like I said, I want to punch him in the face. And I understand there are people that like Fitz, that are Team Fitz, and that's cool. If you like Fitz and you're not as annoyed by him, that's awesome. I mean, we have our preferences. I personally just really don't like him, and like I said, I constantly want to punch him in the face. But and then on top of that, so like I said, the thing with the bad guys is that, like, first of all, the kids, I understand that they're kids and this is a passive world, but they are in the middle of a war. And they gotta stop being all like, oh no, blood, I can't kill people. Oh my god, these people have tried to kill you so many times. Like, I get that you're kids, you're teenagers and everything, but you need to stop being so passive. You're in the middle of a war where you could die. These people have no problem killing you. I mean, I understand there are gonna be characters in books, in stories that are like hesitant to kill someone, and it's good. You know, it's good that they don't want to be a murderer or stoop to their level. But after a while, it's like, okay, you know, I think you just gotta stop getting all squeamish about it. And some of the other characters, I got the impression that they were starting to realize, okay, we can't be squeamish about this. But, I mean, like, the whole her goblin guard, who I still love his character. He had it set up so they would squirt with fake blood, which is like, it was berry juice or something, and they are, oh my god, and it's like, it's fake juice. I mean, I guess if you never, in the defense of the characters in the book, if they're a passive community, so maybe I'm being a little too harsh, but, I mean, and I don't know what it's like because I've never been in, thankfully I've never been in that situation where I've had to, you know, and I gotta admit, like, when I get a shot or something, you know, on my arm, I do kind of have to turn away, but, I mean, I'm not super squeamish, but I've never actually been exposed to actually seeing someone that lose massive amounts of blood. So I guess I can't really judge them. But, I mean, as a reader wanting the story to move along and them to finally with the bad guys, just like, okay, stop being such a sissy about this. And then they just never, like, it was one of those books where it's like, okay, kill people already, or like, either the bad guys put them out of their misery, you know, kill them, or let the bad guys kill the good guys. It's like, it was kind of like that feeling you get when in a slasher movie, they keep coming out with movies because the bad guy in the mask keeps coming back. He's not dead, and you're just like, okay, die already. Just die already. It's like, just get it over with and kill them. Or at least have the bad guy, or the psychopath kill the good guys. You know, it's like, after a while, it's like, okay, enough already, just die already. And it's just, I couldn't do it anymore. And there were 2 more books left, and those books are really chunky. So it's just, I couldn't do it anymore. I stopped, I just decided to enough the series completely. And, you know, there's aspects of it that I want to know what's gonna happen, as far as, like, is she gonna really choose Fitz? Is he the endgame, or is the author gonna surprise and be like, no, don't worry, just kidding, we actually have her with a guy that's not a control freak. But, and plus, it kind of got a little bit of Mary Sue territory with Sophie's character, because she had so many powers, which at first I was like, oh, that's so cool, but she kept getting more and more powers. Like, it turns out the people who created her, because she's like a genetically engineered elf, as I like to put it, kept giving her powers, and it kept getting revealed that she might have more powers and more powers and more. Oh, she has this power and this power. It's like, okay, why did you guys have to give her so many? I mean, I know it's like you created Super Elf, and, you know, I mean, it's to the point where, what, are you trying to imply she has no weakness at all? Or, oh, she's emotional and doesn't want to kill anybody, so that's her weakness. And then, like, but she had so many powers. And on top of that, like, she had 3 guys, which at first I found that kind of amusing, but then it's like, okay, who's not in love with Sophie? Who does not like her? Does everybody love her? I mean, I think even the girl who's like the bully at their school is gonna start to like Sophie. I mean, I never finished book 7, and I never read book 8, so. But yeah, just, I just couldn't take it anymore. So I DNF. I mean, when book 9 comes out, I might look it up. I might forget though. That's how much I'm done with the series, that I might forget about it eventually. But I'm sure if I watch Reagan from Peruse Project's video, she'll eventually talk. I'll hear about book 9 because she's a big fan of the series. But anyway, okay, so question number 4 is what genre have you read the most of? And of course, that's fantasy. Although lately, the last couple months, I've been kind of on a classics kick. But nope, still fantasy though. So according to the document or the graph I created, I have read 24 fantasy. The next most I've read is mystery and horror, apparently, which is a surprise. And that's with 15 books, and then classics is 12. And once I finally get done some of the Dickens books, the David Copperfield and the Pickwick Papers, then that will be 14 books when I get those 2 done. Which will hopefully be before October. But anyway, okay, so next question number 5 is name a new favorite author that you've discovered this year. And that I finally started this year, I think was the year that I officially started reading Trollope. So I started collecting his books, because Katie from Books and Things constantly talking about how great a writer he is. I know that Steve Donahue was talking about how he's a huge fan of Trollope. In fact, he prefers Trollope over Dickinson. And I finally started collecting the books in his series. Now, he's not as known of an author, I feel like, here in America as Dickinson or Austen. So it was a little harder for me to find his books. But at some point at the roast office, someone had returned all Trollope's book, had donated all Trollope's books in the Barchester series, Barsetshire series, in this edition, this Hardcore Library of English and American Classics. So I bought most of them in this edition, and I think I also found a paperback edition of some of the books, like the second. Yeah, I guess I only have the second book in that edition. I thought I had more than one book in that edition of that series. But I guess maybe I'm thinking of The Way We Live Now, which is also in that paperback edition that I have. This is the third one. But Trollope, his writing, which is funny considering what both Katie and Steve Donahue have said about, but I feel like his writing reminds me of Dickens. But I think it was either Steve or Katie who said that he is different from Dickens in what he writes about, because he writes about the upper class people, the rich people, and Dickens kind of focuses on the poor in his books. And now Katie, I believe Katie likes both authors, but Steve himself has said that he prefers Trollope. But I'm with Katie on this one. I like both authors so far. But Dickens, I'm a little more familiar with, obviously, because he's basically part of the pop culture community. But I just really I've loved so far. I do enjoy his writing style, and I like the so far the first 2 books in the Barsetshire series, which starts with the Warden and then the Barchester Towers. And then this one is Dr. Thorne. And the Barchester Towers just felt like such a soap opera, which is funny because I'm someone who's not big on watching soap operas unless it's like a fantasy type. I probably would have liked the original TV show of Dark Shadows, probably if I had grown up with it. But I did like the Tim Burton movie. I don't think everybody loved the Tim Burton movie, his version of Dark Shadows, but I personally loved it. And I mean, the only Johnny Depp Tim Burton comp I don't really like is the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Although, from what I heard, surprise, that one is actually more accurate to the original Roald Dahl book, which is a little eventually I got to admit, my first reaction was really? because I don't like that version. I prefer the Willy Wonka that came out in the 70s. I love that movie. But anyway, but yes, I love Trollope's writing style, and I'm really enjoying his, Barset Sire series, and the little bit I've read of The Way We Live Now, because I did start it last year when we went to Florida for in October. When we went there, I attempted to read a little bit of it, and I really liked it. But that was not the best time for me to read a classic book, considering that there was too many distractions, and then eventually halfway through the trip, I met Terry, and Terry stayed with us, and we went to the of course the Harry Potter world, and this was before the whole J.K. Rowling, the really bad stuff she has said lately. Of course, she said a lot of bad stuff lately, but this was, I think, the most recent thing about transgender people is the last straw for all of us. So I'm definitely conflicted on that, because I get why people are mad, and I agree with them, but I still hold the Harry Potter books in my heart. Although I watched an interesting video by Lindsay Ellis, YouTuber Lindsay Ellis. She did a video on J.K. Rowling and her saying that how you can't really do the whole, in her opinion, you can't really do the death by author thing, where I think, basically, it's trying to separate the author from the work, and the author is no longer in control of the work, but she pointed out J.K. Rowling is so invested and so part of this, so ingrained in the Harry Potter world, that it's very hard. You can't really do that. You can't do the death of the author, and I definitely see her point. And the good news about, this, I went last year to Harry Potter and Wizarding World before, and I already bought the books years ago when they first started coming out, so it's but, okay, I'm going to stop talking about that for now, but anyway, yep, so my new favorite author is Trollope, which I did not mention last time in the freak out tag. I should have just said him, because he's one of the newer authors that I've started reading this year. Okay, so next question. Question number 6 is another one where I don't have the book. And that question is, what's the most surprisingly good book you read so far this year? And this was one of those questions that I had a hard time coming up with an answer, but I finally decided, for the sake of something different, to talk about a book that, in a quote-unquote genre, and you'll know why I put it in quotes in a minute, but one that I'm not as well read in, that I don't read a lot of it, because I'm always apprehensive that I'm not going to be into the book because it might be a little dry. And that is On Writing, a Memoir of the Craft by Stephen King. And I listened to that on audiobook. So, not only was it not from the library, well, actually, technically, I guess it was from the library, because it was on the Libby app. But I was listening to an audiobook, so I don't have a copy of it at all. And like I said, and again, I put the genre in quotes, because can you really consider nonfiction a genre? I don't know if it would be really considered a genre, but I feel like nonfiction memoirs are the easiest nonfiction to get into, because they're very personable. And and if you listen to that on audiobook, most likely the author of the memoir is going to be the narrator of the book, the person who's reading the book to you on audiobook, which I really liked. So this is basically, as the title implies, it's on Stephen King crafting writing, and how he became the writer he is today, and what inspired his work, and how challenging it can be, and how but he makes it very interesting and engaging, because he tells all these great stories, these anecdotes of things that happened to him that inspired his writing, like getting poison ivy on his butt. And, his relationship with his mom, his brother, and, another story was how I don't know if it was a guidance counselor or one of his teachers had told him, when she got one of his horror stories when he was in, high school, she was like, are you writing this crap, this genre crap? No one, like, assuming no one wants to read that. No one cares about that. They want to read something more literary. And now that crap is making him $1 million. He's very rich. I mean, he may not be as rich as Miss Rowling, but he's still doing really well. People will still buy his books. I mean, even if they end up not liking his newer stuff, they will still buy it because it has his name on it. It's written by him, so people are like, I'm going to give it a chance anyway, even if I end up not liking it. But it's so funny, and he's just so honest and blunt. He reminds me of the other memoir I just read, Talking as Fast as I Can by Lauren Graham. Again, another person who's very honest and very blunt and just straightforward, and tells what they believe, but not in a way that's shove it in your face. Like, he gives you advice on writing, but he's like, well, you don't have to take it, but I definitely recommend it kind of mentality. Like, I'm not going to force you to follow this advice, which he can't anyway. I mean, but I still think it's a good thing to consider, and it's worked for me, so maybe it would, and it's worked for a lot of other authors. And he does, of course, have a grammar technical aspect chapter. He does get to that at some point, but he doesn't get to that until later, because I think he realizes that you're not going to be as engaged, because it's already, it's a nonfiction, so it's already a book about stating facts and figures and stuff. So he figures, tell it like a story first, and then get to all the boring stuff that is still important, but it's not the most exciting part. And it's a memoir, so it's not, it's not a biography. It's not a book about facts. It's a memoir. So in a way, it is like a story, except for it's a true story, like true crime. This is another genre in the nonfiction category that I think I get along well with, true crime. Or it's like, well, I only read one true crime book, so I can't officially say that. But if it's a crime story that I'm interested in, I think I would have no problem reading it. I would have to be like really interested in it, like passionately interested in it. So yeah, that is my surprisingly good book I chose. Because I say surprisingly because I'm always apprehensive about nonfiction. Like, I'm currently reading John Adams' biography by David McCullough, and I'm worried the same mistake I made last time, where I stopped at one point and it took me so long to get back to it, to the point where I feel pressured just to give it back to my brother-in-law, and he didn't see that I left it in the room where they stay when they come here. And so I decided, I'm just going to try again to read it. I almost bought, I saw a paperback of it yesterday when I went to BAM, and I almost bought it then. But then I was like, because my mom, I'll help me order some books from Thrift Books online. She's like, just get one book. I mean, we'll drop you off there, but just get one book. So it's like, okay. So let's make this book count. So, but I almost bought that one for like a second. I thought about buying, and then I almost bought like The Last Magician, and I almost bought a nicer edition of A Tale of Two Cities, but I ended up passing on that too. And I was like, you know what? If I'm gonna buy just one book, then I'm just gonna splurge and buy a more pricier book instead of like a cheap one. Okay, one second. My dog just now he's changed his mind and wants to go back. Let's see. I would leave my door open, but I don't like leaving it open when I'm filming, so. Okay, and I'm talking about that, enough on that question. Okay, so question number 7 is, what are your favorite and most anticipated releases? And I focus on the anticipated releases, although I guess these don't really count, because at least one of them is out. And I was trying to think of some other ones, but I only have 2 on here that I could think of, and I don't want to, I just want to get this tag done. I want to, present this tag to you guys and my answers. So I'm just going to stick with these 2. So one of them is not out yet, and that is The Silver Serpents, which is the sequel to The Gilded Wolves by Roshani Chokshi. I'm one of the people that actually really loved The Guild Wolves. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the second book, but it's not. I don't think it's out yet. I don't think. And then I said Ruthless Gods, which is out, so it's not an anticipated release. It actually is out. That is the sequel to Wicked Saints, which is another one that not everybody loved, but I did, and I cannot wait for Ruthless Gods, the second one, when I finally buy it. But that one, I guess, doesn't really count, but I don't have any other answers, because that one is there. In fact, I saw it at the bookstore, and I think maybe I should have bought it, but I decided, since I only can buy one book. Okay, so next, that was question number 7. So question number 8. What's your next big priority for your reading? I picked quite a few of them. Okay, so let's see. First I picked Assassin's Quest, which, by the way, I actually have, I meant to order. I have the first book in the next series, The Life of Traitors, which is the next series they recommend you read after this one. And they have the first one in a different edition than this, but it's still a mass market paperback. And I ended up ordering, well, that's one of the books I ordered from Thrift Books. But then I realized at the last minute, after I placed my order, my mom, suggested just stick with 3 books, don't get more than 3, and don't get, it doesn't mean you have to get, a set of books every month, because, she wants me to learn how to be careful with my money. So I realized a little too late that I actually got the 3rd one and not the 2nd one, so it's gonna be a while. So I'm gonna have to wait a while before I can order the second book in the Life of Traitors series. But it's still taking me a while, and it still might take me a while to read the Ship of Magic anyway. So this is the final book in the first trilogy in her Realm of Elderlings Chronicles. About Fitz, our main character Fitz, as an adult. Not a young adult, but more like a middle-aged adult. And the trilogy is basically about, like I said, our main character Fitz, and he is the son of one of the prince who's next in line to be king when his father passes, Prince Chivalry. But because he's a bastard and is the son of his wife that was not his lover, that was not queen, Fitz is not officially accepted by the royal family, and his father, Chivalry, passes him off to the stable hand, Burrick, to raise him, and he learns how to be a stable boy and stuff. But eventually the king, Shrewd, who's still alive, realizes that he recognizes something in Fitz and decided to take him on, and he passes him on to be apprenticed to his assassin, Shade. And then sadly, and it's discovered that Fitz has an aptitude for the magic, the wit, which is a connection to animals, a telepathic connection to animals, which everybody is afraid of, because then there's people believe that you will become more beast than man. That's the looming threat if you use too much of the wit. And then the other magic system is the Skell, which is human mind to mind, human telepathy. So it's all about Fitz's life, as his life is shit. His life sucks. But because everyone uses him and takes it for granted, and he doesn't realize how there are people out there that do generally love him, because they're really hard on him at times, and they don't show as much affection to him. They're not open with their affection. And things are complicated with the love interest in the first 2 books that he has, although she becomes more of a love interest in the second book, because he's of that age, when in the second book he's of that age where he's hormones and he likes girls. And his life is so hard, and you feel so bad for him. You just want good things for Fitz, and you feel so bad for him. And it's basically a trilogy of political intrigue, political maneuverings. Like I said, this is the third book where, and I guess I can't really say any more because it would kind of spoil it. But yes, I want to get to this soon so I can start on Liveshare Traders. So that's one of the books. And then one of my priorities, and then is this one, The Great Hunt, the second book in the Wheel of Time series. And I'm not going to even try to sum this up, just look it up, because I'm just bad at summing up this series so far, and I've only read one book, so it's not like a lot happened, but I mean, these books are pretty chunky. I think Daniel Green, check out, if you're not a fan of Daniel Green and you like fantasy, check out his channel. He probably does a better job at talking about what the series is about, than I would. But this is the second book in this series, so again, just and by the way, just warn, there are 14 books, and the first book is definitely very Lord of the Rings-esque. It follows a very Lord of the Rings-like formula, and a lot of people think he was copying Tolkien and stuff. But you know what? With fantasy, you can never be original. Or you can rarely be original. Sometimes you do get lucky and can be original. But you know what? There are 14 books, so Rob Jordan goes his own way eventually. Not eventually. He does by the second book. It's only the first book that's very similar to Lord of the Rings. And I think it's a little unfair that people are like, oh, he's trying to be so like Tolkien, and Tolkien is far superior. But yeah, this is the second book, so I want to read this soon. I'm slowly accumulating the books in the series. I almost bought book 6 yesterday. That was one of the books I almost bought. But like I said, I was limited to only one book. My mom requested I only get one book. And I try to follow what she requests. I try to be, a good daughter and not to sound all dramatic. And follow her request and not get, because she still has authority over me. So, okay, so next is, I also want to get some Bleak House, and like I mentioned earlier in this video, I want to use this one for Victober. This is Dickens in his most popular work, and a lot of people, this one is considered their favorite. And it's basically all about this inheritance, and this guy dies, and they're trying to decide who has the rights to the inheritance. There's a lot of characters. It's a lot of drama. And it's just so fun, and I'm excited to read it officially when I can pay more attention to it. So I want to read it for Victober. But yeah, and I love this edition. I like getting these editions because the mass market, and like I said, this edition was the one I was trying to get of Tale of Two Cities that I almost bought, but I passed it over. Because like I said, I'm trying to follow my mom's request to only buy one book. Although I ended up buying 3, but that's not because they weren't for me. 2 of the books were those Brain Quest work books, the learning books. Because my nephews, their birthdays are coming up, so it's I decided. So my mom suggested now would be a good time because she is going to see them. She is finally able to go see them on Sunday. Just as long as she's really careful, she's just gonna make sure she's really careful. But my sister's a newborn baby, so my mom wants to help her out. So she's gonna go see them, and she told me, and she said confirmed that yes, it'll probably be a good idea if you buy them now. So I mean, and it's the only way they'll get to them is through if my mom brings them up with her now. So technically it wasn't a book for me, to be fair. But anyway, or books I should say. So yeah, I want to get to this one for Victober. It's a chunker book. It's 800 pages. This copy is 800 pages long, literally 800 pages. Not 801, not 850, but 800 pages. So, yeah, I want to get to this one next, but I'm currently reading David Copperfield by him, and the Pickwick Papers by him. So I want to try to get those done before October. So I have 3 months to get those done. So, and if I focus on both of those, then I will. I think I could do it. Okay, so the next ones that I want to get to are, okay, so next is I want to get to Needful Things. So I was trying to, a while back, I was trying to decide between, I don't know if it was earlier this year or in 2019. I was trying to decide if I wanted to read The Stand or this one. And a lot of people, I even asked people in my Facebook group, and a lot of people recommended The Stand. So I started The Stand, and I did enjoy it. But honestly, I should have just started with this one. But my thing is, the ones that I'm most excited about or most interested, I like to wait before I get to those and do the ones I'm not as excited about. That, yes, I'm interested in them, I want to read them, but they're not the ones that I'm like, oh my god, I have to read this. And in this case, I'm sure, like, The Stand is good, what I've read so far of it, but I was definitely a little bit more intrigued by this one. Especially because the character of Leland Gaunt made me think of Mr. Gold if he were more evil. Probably very much like how the direction they go later in the series, or what the person they tried to go with. And I'm talking about Once Upon a Time. So yeah, I definitely kind of wanted more interested, and I was kind of more intrigued by this one. So, but I decided, I'm gonna go with The Stand because everybody's in the Facebook group is saying go with The Stand. So I started that. I did enjoy it. It was really cool. I had a good time with it. I haven't finished it yet, but I kind of want to get back into this one. So I don't know if I'm gonna finish this one but it is on one of the books I want to read this year. Actually, now I think about it, this one should also be a priority too, is American Gods by Neil Gaiman, because I got this book before we moved here. And actually, to be fair, I probably should also, for books I need to get to that I probably won't finish, I should also include this one, Count of Monte Cristo. So let's consider these also on the list of books I need to get to. The problem is, these are all chunky books. Therein lies the problem. And, so it's like, it takes me forever to read these books. But I do need to get to them soon. But anyway, so yes, Needful Things. And in case you don't know, if you're Stephen King fan, you probably know what this is about. You probably have some idea, but maybe not. But it's basically in this town in Castle Rock. There's a new shop that's open called Needful Things, and when you go into that shop, the shopkeeper, Leland Gaunt, promises he will have the exact thing that you need. And it's a little bit more than people bargain for, because it basically eventually leads to lots of chaos and craziness, because he gives people, like, their needs become, like, really crazy desires that they'll do anything for. Even, like, pull up, and he's basically like, and Gaunt basically is like, okay, I'll give you this thing that you need, but you have to do this thing for me. So this whole town basically descends into chaos and craziness. And the last book I have on here is, I meant to put tape on this, I'll have to do that, is Nosferatu, which is the book by Stephen King's son, Joe. And I had got this a couple years ago from the library, but of course, as you can see, it's a pretty chunky book, so I ended up not finishing, and I don't want to have to keep rechecking out, because who knows how long it would take me to finish this book. So finally, a few years later, I finally bought it. As in this year, I finally bought it. This paperback copy that is a TV show tie-in edition. It's a show on AMC, and it's the second season, I think, is actually starting soon. And I actually surprisingly remember a lot of what I've read. I've read a good amount of what I read. I remember it pretty well. But I decided to start from the beginning because I didn't know how accurate Goodreads was when I switched it over to paperback. Because the library edition, of course, was a hardback. Because I think most library books, they only have the hardback. But anyway, it's basically you have two main characters, Victoria McQueen, who has the knack for finding things, and particularly with the help of her Raleigh bike and the Shorter-Way Bridge. But it's a little bit much for her, so her whole life she kind of goes back and forth between believing and being absolutely afraid and coming up with a different way she found things, like a more natural way, a more realistic way. And she kind of gets mixed up with this guy, Charlie Max, who he, like her, has a special gift. And with his Wraith, which is a 1930s car, he will collect children that he thinks are being treated badly by their parents and take them to the magical land of Christmas Land where they will become immortal. But here's the kick. They essentially become monsters. They become cold and ruthless monsters, kind of like vampire-esque. And he always finds an assistant to help him deal with the parents. In this case, it's Bing Partridge, who essentially will drug the parents and will do things to teach them a lesson. And they're not nice things; they're pretty naughty things. And Vic comes across these guys, but somehow, as a teenager, she is able to escape. And Charlie, it puts him in a comatose state, but he comes back wanting revenge and wants it, for her doing this to him and be the one that got away. So far this is really good. And if you're a fan of King, he very much writes like his dad. And of course he writes a lot of horror stuff. That what I've seen so far. This is the only book of his that I've read. I did attempt to read Heart-Shaped Box. And I might give that one another chance. The problem is, I think when I read it, first of all, it was a library book, so I only had 2 weeks. Not that the book is as long as this one. That one's a little shorter. And I feel like I just wasn't in the mood for that book. So I would like to give that one another chance, and read some more of his, and maybe read even Horns, the book Horns as well. But yeah, this is really good and it's a fast. I feel like despite the length, it can go by pretty fast because the chapters are often really short. It's a really good book, and I would love to get done this year. But again, these books that I put on for answers for this question, there's no guarantee I'll actually get them done, but they are priorities. I should make a priority list, but then I never follow through with that list because I get sidetracked by my other books. Okay, so that was all the ones that I said for question number 8 during my priority reads. And then question number 9, what's been your bookish highlight? And I said reading the first book in the Wheel of Time series, The Eye of the World. I mean, this is a chunker of a book. And it's not very often that I get books like this finished within a few months. I mean, I think that I am doing that, getting it done within a few months, actually. Which is also surprising because I've heard that his writing is like Tolkien, that he spends so much time on details of describing things, yet I did not even notice that. I mean, maybe because there was a little bit of a space in between my readings, but it actually surprisingly did not bother me. I didn't even notice it, that he spent so much time. I was just enjoying the ride and the adventure. And I think part of the problem with Lord of the Rings is because, I always say that I feel like the part of the problem is I love the movies so much. I've watched them so many times. I have them on DVD. So it's just like, I know the story. And yes, there are a lot of things that are different in the book. Like Aragorn's character is very different in the book. And there are other different. I did eventually listen to the audiobooks of Lord of the Rings this year, so I took in the story either way. I know people would say it doesn't count as reading because you're not actually looking at the page. It's like you're still reading. You're just not physically reading yourself. You're not staring at the words on the page and reading what it says. Someone is reading it to you, but you're still taking in the story and you're still getting the story. I'm glad I did because I feel less guilty now, and I still did enjoy it. But like I said, I still prefer the movie over the book. But it was very weird hearing different people, different voices as the characters, because it's a full cast audiobook, and and of course it's not like it had the movie actors reading the parts, but yeah, I'm so used to the movie that it was a little weird hearing other people as the characters. But anyway, so back to this. Look how well worn this book is that this part came off. And I'm almost tempted to buy a new copy of this. Because I'm just coming to realize how there's a lot of issues with it. I mean, I don't mind breaking spines. I'm perfectly fine with it. But, I mean, look. Although this one, I guess, is not a good example because I haven't started this book. But, here, this is a better example. This one's less falling apart. I mean, it still, has some corners of being folded over, but, these ones don't fall apart as easily. It's the mass market paperback editions that fall apart. My first copy of it got a little damp and ruined. Just like, my copy of, which is not a mass market paperback, but what did I show you? Of this one, which is not a mass market paperback, but it's, in this case, well, in both cases, it's my fault that it got ruined. But, this one is in danger of falling apart to the point where I need to tape it. I need to tape this side, as this part too, but, this one is more secure, I think, than this one. But, I mean, my excuse is always the same, and these are cheaper and easier to travel. You don't have as much weight to travel. You can put in more than one book in your bag in this size. But it always did kind of bother me, the minuscule print. I think that's why for the longest time, when I had books this size, it would take me forever to read it because of the minuscule print. But anyway, okay, so let's talk about the book. Like I said, I feel like I can't really sum this up. And again, I think Daniel Green, YouTuber Daniel Green, would do a better job at telling people what this series is about. Plus, I'm starting to feel the sensation of tiredness, and I might need to get another cup of coffee. But this was really good, and I enjoyed it. And I know a lot of people complain because he's trying to copy off of Tolkien. It's so much like Lord of the Rings. It's like, I don't care. I still had a good time with it. I love this first book, and I say this for my answer for a bookish highlight because I just really love this story. I love falling into this world, and I can't wait to read the next book, even though I haven't started reading the second book yet. It was fun and thrilling. There were so many interesting characters and races and stuff, and I also feel proud that I read the first book of this series because it's a very popular fantasy series. It's like the modern 21st century version of Lord of the Rings, where it's really popular and everybody knows it. It's a fantasy staple, and I just feel really proud that I can say I'm one of those people who read this book, because I almost was gonna pass on the series and never read the series because it was so many books. Then I was like, I'm gonna try it, and it's not the best. It is a little intimidating because each individual book is pretty chunky, and there are 14 books in this, but I still feel like it's I think. But if that doesn't bother you, I definitely recommend checking this out, and don't dismiss it just because it's very similar to Lord of the Rings in the first book. I mean, I haven't read the second book, but also Daniel Green does inspire me. Daniel Green's, it definitely inspired me to read the series and get into it because how passionately Daniel Green talks about the series and how much he loves it. And there's now a TV series coming out. And I think they've started filming again. I don't know. I don't know if they've started filming again. I mean, I know the Lord of the Rings TV series has started filming again in New Zealand. I just watched his fantasy news update on that. He said that the Lord of the Rings show has started filming again in New Zealand. And a lot of shows have started, they're starting to get the go-ahead because, I mean, which I can see why now, because my dad was talking to some guys he knows that are actual scientists, not like famous scientists or anything, but they know a little bit about the virus, and they were saying that it's just like the flu, and if you're gonna get it, you're gonna get it. If you get the COVID-19, you're gonna get it. It's unavoidable. And the only thing you can do is try to take preventive measures, and just be careful. And my mom herself was saying she feels like we might be wearing masks for a while, which really sucks. But I mean, if it's necessary, I can live with that. And it's just as long as I could finally start going places and traveling, then I'm happy. But I'm also not gonna be all like, I'm not gonna get upset about it because I can't do anything about it, and I'm just gonna wait for as long until we find out for sure if everything is okay, because I feel like there's no point in getting upset about it, and being all miserable about it, because yes, it sucks, but you can't change it. It's not going to magically go away just because you say, oh, this sucks and this ruins everything. It's not going to magically make it go away just because you express how much it annoys you. That this has kind of ruined a lot of people, a lot of things for people, because they have to stay inside. And, they have to wear masks and stuff like that all the time. Okay, but I'm not going to get into that. Let me get back to talking about this. So this is it's such a fun series. I'm glad I read the first book, and I can't wait. I need to read the second one soon. But I want to finish the book I'm reading right now, and then I'm going to read, Wondersmith. I'm going to read that one as well, because I feel like I can get through that one, and the current book I'm reading, I feel like I can get through that one quickly. But anyway, so yeah, I feel like this is my bookish highlight, because it's a book that it's a series that is a very famous fantasy staple series, and I'm glad I finally read the first book. Okay. Alright, so, question, and then number 10 is basically tag people, and I still haven't gotten an idea on that, so I just don't really tag anybody, because I don't know if the people I would like to tag would watch my videos, but if you guys have any people that are interested in this tag and want to do it, I say go for it. It's a fun tag. It's always a fun tag to do every year. It's a good way to highlight your book accomplishments. What books have you read this year? How many have you read? Even though it shouldn't be about quantity, it's about quality of what you read. But if you want to do it, go for it. It's a really fun tag, like I said, and so if you guys like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, click subscribe if you haven't already, and click the bell notification below, and I hope below if you want to see when I post new videos, and I hope reading is making you feel better about what's going on this year, and especially, since there's a lot of crap going on, and I feel like books are a good way to escape and to teach, to help, educate you on what's going on. I know that there's, a lot of readathons going out, that there's been readathons going on, reading certain books, about, white fragility, and why I'm not talking to white people about race. And I'm thinking there's others as well that I believe people are reading that are about, what's going on, that will really educate people on what's going on in the world, But anyway, okay, so I'm gonna stop talking now, and I will talk to y'all later. Alright, bye!